Welcome, I'm Rev Jayne with you on a virtual CSL. And today's talk is about interdependence. And as always, I want to start with a quote. So the quote is by William Wordsworth, and he says, "As above, so below. As below, so above. What is true on one plane is true on all." And so today I want to talk about interdependence, and it starts with us. And I feel that there is this connection with interdependence of these 3 points. And the first one is that there's a cause and an effect, that everyone is always connected, interdependent. And I also want to share on this idea that this mind-filled living that we automatically do, that this encourages us through our mind to feel, to see, to hear, to experience interdependence everywhere. And number 2 is that interdependence is the clear result and cause of that impersonal law of cause and effect. And it's always saying yes to our words, our beliefs, and to our thoughts. And number 3 is that our observation changes everything, how our perception is, how we internalize it. So it starts with me, my beliefs, my thoughts, my words, my actions. Whether these are conscious or not, the effect is guaranteed. So let's start with number 1, cause and effect. Imagine that you're going to start your car and you're turning the key and it won't start, and you just keep doing it. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all if the car won't start. It would make a lot, because you're just going to wear your battery down. The most sensible, highest perspective would be to settle back and ponder. My car won't start. Well, it could be the battery. I could be out of fuel. It's damp out. Maybe my car is having trouble with the weather. But to actually settle back and see it from a new vantage point, this broader perspective. And this allows us to approach whatever the condition or problem is calmly once we take this broader perspective. Because if we're going click, 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 we're not calm. The fact is, every incident that we encounter, it comes about as a result of countless different things and variables that are happening simultaneously that may be totally hidden from our view. But they're all interconnected. Take, for instance, my husband and friend and partner. For 3 years, he wasn't attracting a full-time job, and something it was like he put out 150 applications into him. He just couldn't figure it out. So in his mind, his answer became, well, I just turned 60 years old. I'm too old, so they won't hire me. After doing the workshop with Reverend Linda, and doing the forgiveness around previous employers, he saw this correlation. There was this huge aha moment when he took this broader perspective. And within 48 hours of that forgiveness class, yay, Reverend Linda, is that he had an opening. He changed his effect because he changed the cause in his mind and how he was seeing things. He unraveled it from this broader perspective. And within that 48 hours, he was on the phone being interviewed. And then 3 days later, he had another interview. The following week, he was interviewed in person. And then by the end of the week, he was offered the job with the full package and has since started that job. So I realized that it's all connected. No job was showing up. So he changed his beliefs, did his forgiveness work around previous employers, and he created this new effect. And this is what interdependence is. So what changed is he showed up, and he showed up differently to himself and to the world. So this cause and effect. Another incident that happened this week was around my son, who we had this Eagle Scout ceremony. Now, there's only 2% of all Boy Scouts that sign up for Boy Scouts that actually make it to Eagle Scout. And it's a 12-year journey. My son, the ceremony, we had 100 people coming. It was all catered. And he was really blasé about it. Well, the night before, my husband, Steve, was just furious that my son was just like, whatever, we have the ceremony. It's just for you and for the family, And Steve just couldn't even hardly sleep that night. I thought, I'm just leaving him alone. The next morning, he got up and he had the same cloud around him of anxiety around it, wanted to change our son and make him see how serious this was and important it was. But my son is 18. He has his own picture. Well, Steve decided to go out and shovel snow. And I thought, oh, thank you, God. Take him out into nature. So I did spiritual mind treatment while he was outside, knowing that I saw him clearing his head out in nature, seeing it from this new, broader perspective. Well, he came back in from shoveling outside and he had this open mind. He says, I can't really change Harrison. I can just change how I see it. And he has the right to how he shows up. And just this opening. My son came down the stairs. We had a loving connection, all of us, and it had removed this cloud that had been around him. So I realized that the point is that we have to get out of our own way when we get down or fearful about our next steps, or we got to know we can't change another person, only ourselves. And spiritual mind treatment does that, getting out and clearing our head in nature. These are ways to open to a broader perspective. Ernest Holmes says, we continue to suffer so long as we impose suffering. And Steve was imposing suffering through his thoughts regarding his previous jobs and employers. And so this was also true. He was in his thinking about our son, he was imposing this suffering. Wordsworth again says, as above, so below, as below, so above. What is true on one plane is true on all. Interdependence. Quantum physics with Dr. Goswami. I love this class. And he talked about time-space continuum. And in this concept of time and space, there's this folding back where it folds back onto itself. And I believe that, and this leads to certain opportunities and possibilities of the future. And that they say that it may have an impact. This is the same as our thoughts. They're like folding back on us, and we're creating this living, breathing life force ball of our thoughts, words, and actions. And they actually, back at the turn of the century, called it a thought form. And now I understand what that actually means. It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's all interdependent and connected. So Dr. Goswami, he also spoke about tangled hierarchy and this interdependent relationship in all. And Ernest Holmes says the universe holds nothing against us. We are judged by our own acts. And since we cannot act without first thinking, we are really judged by our own thoughts. Wow, that's so powerful. And he goes on to say punishment and reward are automatic. So it's in our thought form, our thoughts, words, and actions. Holmes has always, in his teachings from Science of Mind, the founder of Science of Mind, has always held this premise and encourages us to start with ourselves, inside out, our thinking, our practices. So for Steve, shoveling snow. For me, spiritual mind treatment and connecting with the divine. And the well-balanced person can walk with their head in the clouds and still keep their feet firmly planted on the earth. Faith and work are ineffective when separated. This is what Ernest Holmes says. Faith and work are ineffective when separated. So it's always walking in the truth. Ernest says that people, things, institutions, methods, sciences, philosophies, all are good. From each I shall learn something that I can, and everything with great gratitude acknowledge the good I am receiving from whatever source, but I am still whole within myself, dependent upon nothing, and yet always interdependent with all things. The indwelling of God is this greatest single factor in our lives, and there's nothing between God and you. God is not out there, but rather inside you. Therefore, when We see God in all events and people. We connect this chain of interdependent connection. It's up to us. A successful person will be at peace, and because they are at peace, they will be happy, and because they are happy, they will be surrounded by happy circumstances. This is what leads to a full, flourishing life. Life is ever giving of itself. Allow the process to bring you this inner peace by knowing that interdependence is what creates unity of self and unity with others. I offer this suggestion. We might consider interdependence in global finance. We might look at it in the economics, the interdependence of humanity, the interdependence in the natural world through the food chain. These are all symbiotic relationships between living organisms. Recognizing that so many aspects in our world are characterized and connected by this mutual interdependence can help us be more realistic when it comes to understanding the world, because every situation we face, so the cause and effect that's happening, and then this interdependence that this really is, we're all part of this whole, that every situation we face in life arises from this convergence of many contributing factors. And I invite you to take a broader view. It's not enough to look at any given situation or problem from only one perspective. We need to look at it from this direction and then look over, from that direction and from all sides, above, below. And when we do this, we take this kind of broader, holistic perspective, and our responses will definitely be more in tune with reality. When problems arise, people have the unfortunate tendency to view them from this narrow perspective. So number 2 is just opening to this interdependence that is already happening. And that cause and effect, number 1, it's already going on, whether we're conscious of it or not. So number 3 is this interdependence, that there's strength in strengthening the whole is all, and seeing this broader perspective is all about our observation. And in the Buddhists, they believe there's 3 different layers of understanding through our observation. So understanding our observation. So number 1 type of observation is hearing. We're going to learn about this. We hear about an incident that happens. So we look it up. Maybe we, go to the other God, Google, and we look it up. And then we go, this event happened. The next step of observation and really truly embodying it and understanding it, as a Buddhist says, is understanding through reflection. So we reflect on it, we digest it, that creates something inside of us. There's a different way of observing it. And the third level of understanding is through this contemplation, where we really look at the whole picture of it, and we've reflected, we've internalized the information. Then we observe the entire picture at its highest level. We unify it. There's a unity that happens when we see it from this broader worldly perspective. And everything is connected and interdependent. And when we see that, we have a different range and perception of the whole. So what do I mean by interdependence? Just this idea of the cause and effect, the first one, that everything and everyone is always connected, interdependent. Number 2 is that this interdependence is that there's a clear result, and that the cause of that impersonal law of cause and effect, it's always saying yes to our words, thoughts, and actions. So it's important for us to be, what are those thought forms that we're putting out? And number 3 is this idea of observation, and that there are the 3 different levels of observation, and our thoughts, our words, our actions, that preferably we do them consciously, and that it's guaranteed no matter what, there will be a result, whether we're conscious or not. So why not look at the 3 layers of that understanding that the Buddhist gives us of how we can observe? And that first is we take the event in, we hear about it, we do research on it. And the second level, we kind of embody that in and we reflect on this condition or issue. And then the third is this from this higher perspective. Everything we believe, think, say, and do has an impact somehow. It may only affect us directly and it may have far reaching consequences. It could even affect centuries down the road. So take time to observe, reflect, internalize, and experience each day from this interdependence and interconnection of the whole. Consider each meal, the food, the farmer, how the preparation, everybody that's dynamic in that creation. Reflect when you get a letter, a message on your phone. Oh, look, this person, they took the time. I'm connected to them. Step out and make a difference in your community, like that pay it forward. I love that. It's like each thing affects the next one. And consider how it takes just the right amount of gravity to support our planet. All of this is interconnected. So I want to leave you with one quote. So just breathe this in. Today I live my life, and that of everyone and everything, everywhere, depends on it, because it does. You matter. We matter. It all matters. Thank you. I love you. Have a blessed day.